All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Bearded Gear podcast. This is one of my most exciting podcast episodes that I have ever done because it comes with a lot of baggage that we're going to talk about. There's a lot that's been going on that has gotten us to here. This is episode number 27, and I'm joined by my buddy Ryan. Ryan is... many of you know him on Instagram as Rimmer Designs. He makes crazy, weird, funky donut things, which I just realized in this moment. Mine is in the car, and I should have grabbed that, but I didn't. But I've been playing with it in the car. Anyway, so Ryan has become a buddy over the last, really probably more than a year, 2 years-ish now. We talk a lot, especially because in the last year or so, we decided to co-design a knife together and start a knife a knife design / sales / whatever you want to call it company, a knife company. And we have our first prototypes, which have just gotten here, of our new Avant model. So between Ryan and I, we are Luft Concepts, the entity. It is us, and I brought Ryan on so that we can get everybody up to speed. I've talked a lot about Luft Concepts and the Avant as we've been doing 3D printed prototypes and picking an OEM, and that's come up in my podcast and in my videos on the channel a lot. But now it is happening. It's a reality. We're starting to get things in motion. So Ryan is here, and we're going to try to paint a picture of how we got here and who we are a little bit better, and just kind of tie a bow on it. So Ryan, how are you, my friend?
Dude, I'm great, man. I'm pumped. I'm pumped to be here. I mean, we've been talking for a while already, but this is good. This is good. This is crazy. Man, I'm trying to think how I think I reached out to you originally.
I believe so. Yeah.
I think that I forget what knife you were reviewing, but I found your review on YouTube, and I believe I commented on it because I only comment on stuff where I feel like, I don't know, the review helped me. You commented back, and I was talking to my wife, and I'm like, I feel like I could be friends with that guy. I feel like he's a guy I'd be friends with, right? So, I think I found you on Instagram, and my wife will 100% be like, nope, I will never blindly send messages to people. I don't want to know if they read it and they didn't get back to me.
That's how you get murdered, by the way, just randomly.
But I'm the opposite. So I'm just like, hey, Jake, or, whatever, saw your stuff, but I'll just willy-nilly do that. And I've made a lot of really great friendships that way. But then, boom, fast forward and look at this dude. I mean,
yeah. So basically, the way I recall our conversation beginning was just in general about knives, and it was whatever I was reviewing at the time, and just talking about what knives you were into and all kinds of stuff. And I think ultimately it just kind of got a level deeper than that, and it was like, wouldn't it be fun to design a knife? And we both were nerding out about what a cool experience it would be just to try, even just the design element of it. And I've doodled knives my whole life because I've always been into them, so I've drawn a lot of knives, and you have as well, but neither of us had really actually sat down with the intention of let's make a real knife, you know?
All the details that are in these things.
Yeah. So we just
what do you think about?
Yeah. And we geeked out about it back and forth a little bit. And then we just kind of casually agreed, why don't we try together so that we have the advantage of we can bounce ideas off of each other. We can be brutally mean and say that looks terrible, or we can if we find something that we like, then maybe we pursue it. And it was just pretty surface level still, this would be fun. And then you made the first drawing of what is now the Avant, and it didn't look anything like what the Avant looks like now.
I wish I had a paper drawing of it, because it looked like some, I don't know, something like Optimus Prime would pull out as an extra weapon.
Yes. It was 80s Terminator if Schwarzenegger was a knife.
Right.
But it was a starting point. And I remember looking at it and being like, no, but I like aspects of it.
Yeah.
And so I think I kind of red penned a little bit of it, change this, change that, see what happens if you move this. And then you kind of revised it a little bit. You started putting it in a 2D platform where you could kind of draw and play with it. And then, yeah, from there, how did it progress past that point? Did we just keep passing it back and forth?
I think we got to a certain point where I had put it on, I put it in that program, and then I just decided to take it at a certain point and build a wooden prototype.
Correct. Yeah. On like your skill saw at home.
On my skill saw, it wasn't exact, but it was like, it was held together with like a nut and a bolt, and it just was like out of balsa wood. I mean, I should have grabbed them all because they're like right behind me. But yeah, I think I did that for just size and general feel. And I showed you, but it wasn't until like the third wooden prototype that I actually sent you. But even at that point, it was still way more radical than this was.
Right. And yeah, it looked pretty radically different. Yeah. So
like your feedback then is what ended up turning the added the sexiness to it all.
Yeah. So you sent me like the third wooden iteration, and I hung on to that for, I don't know, a week or two and checked it out. I think I actually created a video at the time that I responded back to you in a video. I just left it unlisted so only you could watch it.
Yeah.
Doesn't that ring a bell?
Yeah, so it totally rings a bell.
Yeah. So that was just the easiest way I knew with my existing system of looking at knives of how to like talk about it. And so I made that video, sent it to you. And then based on that, we took that 2D a little further. We got it to where it was like, I think at that point, I feel confident in saying, like, since the drawing was originally yours, once we'd gotten to that point where I'd like made some pretty dynamic decisions on things, like a way to take it, it felt pretty ours.
Oh, agreed. 100%.
Yeah. 100%. So then
this is equally ours. There's no doubt about it. I can't even in my back of my mind be like, nope, this is 100% equally ours, because I know what it started out as.
Yeah. Well, and what's interesting too is like, I feel like I've had a lot of influence on this knife, but just like you, not only was the starting point a drawing that you made, that I wouldn't have made that starting point to riff off of to get to anywhere near this. So like, you couldn't have made this solo. I couldn't have made this solo.
Right. Oh yeah.
But to each of us, the cool thing is we have so much overlap in our preferences and the things that we like and want out of a knife that it was really easy the whole way along, unless I'm reading the situation differently.
It was really easy. Like all of the design tweaks and the meetings we had and like the Zoom calls where we just kind of tweaking lines and moving stuff, like it. I think that's a reason why we bonded too back when we met. Back in the day, like it's just
back in 2020.
Back in 2020, was it 2020? Was it 2019?
I started my channel 2020. So
okay, so what's that? I think maybe it was then March or no, maybe June, maybe May or June 2020.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, earliest would have been like April, but probably May or June.
But yeah, no, I think that. There's so many things. There's so many boxes that we need ticked that are exactly the same.
Yeah.
And so that's why when we were like, no, we're just going to build a knife that we would want to carry.
Yeah.
And not for any other reason. Like, I think we had said that at a point, like, if we just get the prototypes and say, that's it, we got knives, you know?
Right.
But, so that's not going to happen now because we're really excited.
Yeah.
But,
so there were a number of decisions along the way where at first it was like, let's just do it and see what comes out of it on the other end and it'll be fun. Right. And at first it was like just drawings, and then you made the little wooden thing, and then you sent me the wooden thing. And then we took that 2D pretty far after that. We got to where the 2D looked good and we liked it. And we were like, if that was a knife we could have, we'd want to have it. Right.
Yeah.
And so at that point was when we got Wes involved, right? So
actually, even before that, the biggest issue we had was everything that makes the knife lock up and hide the flipper. I had never designed anything like that before. I don't think either of us had ever tried to figure out all of the geometry and that needs to go in to this. There's
Right.
so much that needs to happen in here that you just take for granted. And we had an idea of what it would look like inside, but ultimately never having any knife maker ever look at it, it didn't have it never came to fruition. Actually, what ended up happening is Brian from Keenison,
Mhm.
I went to lunch with him a bunch of times, and I kind of started that's, I think, when I started showing off the 2D design that looked very similar to this, but it was all wacky in here.
The profile was this essentially the same.
And and so he kind of started talking to me about, these are things you need to take into account. You need to account for, lock, rock, lock up, all of this stuff. And I'm like, oh my God, this is so complicated. In hindsight, yes, it is still a complicated process to figure out how to make a knife lock. In a very unique way. So yeah, after Brian's help, then you introduced me to Wes.
Mm-hmm.
And then how did it happen from there?
So I think basically I'd been friends with Wes for a little bit. He'd been on my podcast. We chatted all the time. Wes is a great guy. For those of you who aren't familiar with Wes by his first name, because you probably aren't, it's the Pocket Perspective. And so Wes is very proficient with 3D modeling. I forget which software he uses.
Worked for AutoCAD.
That's right. So
for a while too, 15 years or something ridiculous.
Yeah. So he knows the software, right? And he's good at it. He's fast with it. And so I knew already from talking to him privately and just mentioning hey, I'm doing this design thing with my buddy. We're probably going to be looking to have someone help us make it 3D because neither of us can do it. And he seemed interested. And so basically I connected the dots. I got us three to talk together so that he could hear from both of us what we were looking to do. And then basically we hired him to take our 2D files and make them 3D files that were functional. And he did a phenomenal job and was very generous with us with his time. I imagine some of that was because I was already friends with him, but we had some long Zoom calls where we would go over it while he was working on it, which was nice too, because I feel like a lot of people, if you hire some service to make it 3D or whatever, he's the only one I've ever used, so I can't speak from experience, but I imagine for a lot of people, it's you give it to them and then maybe some notes or whatever, and then they work on it and they spit something back out on the other end. But he really consulted with us on it. And Wes has designed specifically several folding knives, and it wasn't just that he knew CAD, it was that he knew CAD for knives. And so he did the 3D with us, which was awesome. With us is a stretch. He consulted with us and did it for us. And then not only did he create those working files for us, but he also had the capability to 3D print. So he 3D printed us, each one of us, a 3D model. I have mine right here. These were these green plastic with gray plastic, and it was a functional liner lock, kind of, as much as a 3D print can be, and had clip screw holes and all kinds of, it was functional. We could feel the scale of it. And when you look at this, so this is actually technically Mark II of the 3D print, because the first one we ended up making a pretty significant edit to the lock side scale and the liner lock. Made it.
You have the old scale on there, or do you have the new one?
This is the new one.
Yeah.
So the old one was a little more angular, but it stuck a little bit too proud in hand once we actually held the knife, which was something if we hadn't done the 3D print, we wouldn't have known really exactly what it felt like in hand. So that was perfect and clutch that he was able to do that for us. Then not only did he make the revisions for us, but then he made us a new lock side scale and liner each, sent them to us. We were able to reassemble them with the new parts. And so what happened next after that?
I think we were 12-year-old kids with little plastic knives. They were really fun.
and a working CAD file we could take
and
anywhere.
A working CAD file. The CAD file was great because we could rotate it, look at it all. And now we had something. I think that was our biggest hang up too. We were we knew we had to eventually approach a production company.
Oh, that was a big decision though, because we
Right.
had never talked about whether we wanted to try to license this design
Right.
or whether
Yeah.
we wanted to, and that was a pivotal moment because we were like, now we'd put a little bit of our money into it. Again, Wes was
Yeah.
probably too generous with us.
We'll get him back. We'll get him.
Yes. But we paid for some work, so we had each come out of pocket a little bit
Yep.
to get as far as we had. And before that, it was just time of us having fun, right? But now we had a small seed of an investment, if you want to call it that, into the project. And we had something from that. We had the working 3D file.
Right.
And it was like, we could either take this to any or all OEMs and offer to license it to them.
Right.
And then we'd get some royalty or whatever. I've never done that, so I don't know the details, but we could have done that. Or what we ended up deciding was basically like, we started this because we wanted to be knife nerds about it and figured out and have fun with it. So like, let's see it through the best way possible, which would be to source an OEM and do a production run that we will then create a business around.
Yep. Uncharted waters for us. Yeah. Neither of us had any experience doing this.
No, nope. We'd watched it happen for a lot of other people.
Oh yeah, but from like a customer perspective, behind the scenes, we had only ever rubbed elbows and talked a little bit. But as we like eventually came to find out, there's a lot of stuff we can't really talk about. But we had to, but now we had this 3D CAD design where we could go to an OEM. And I don't know, for me, it felt like, okay, now we can be taken seriously because we have a full design. It's completely thought through. It seems to work, from a certain degree. I mean, even the plastic one, if you put enough, there's no detent on it, but like it flips, it works. Yeah. So now was the big question of,
there we go.
There you go. Gotta get. But yeah, now it was like, where do we go? And there was only there's three or four OEMs we were kind of considering.
Right.
Yep.
But yeah, so basically from there, we just had to land on which one or ones we were comfortable working with. And then we took our time. We didn't rush it.
Yeah.
And ultimately we started the conversation with Riat.
Yeah.
Which is now where these prototypes are from and where our production run will be made. And yeah, I mean, the details basically of how that worked. I feel like people listening, if we would have listened to this a year ago, we would have been really, really curious about how that went. I feel like we should talk a little bit about how that worked. Basically,
I think so. I think we can be a little transparent to a degree with how we came to there, but like we were like, okay, it's got to be a Chinese manufacturer, right? There's really no USA manufacturers that are known for doing other people's knives and producing other people's knives. So, Benchmade, Spyderco, ProTech, like Tor, they do their own stuff.
Right. It was either Chinese or Italian, or basically the places where designers go, and neither of us felt like Italian was the right choice based on the knives we've owned.
Yep. And so like it kind of came down to, would we go Best Tech, Riat,
QSP.
Yeah. And at that point, we didn't have any contact information. Like we were literally just scraping websites, trying to find contact info, sending out emails to salespeople, or trying to just get basic quotes without really giving them too much info. Because at that point, we were still, well, at least for me, but I think you too, like there's a little bit of more of like, we were guarded about our knife design.
Yeah.
I think as anybody would be creating a new design, because now you're sharing it with a company that has the ability to produce
it.
Right. Yeah. And like, I don't know. I mean, I'm a very trusting person, but there's a lot of miles between us and China. And we were kind of like, well, we gotta step over that threshold and put our trust and just hope that they don't just say, "Oh, that's a great knife design. See you later." And
Right.
next month we see, we putting out this.
Yeah.
But
yeah. So ultimately we landed on Reat, and I think both of us were really excited about that because we've owned a number of Reat knives. And at the end of the day, like all along, if I could have picked any OEM to work with, it was Reat. I think the only like drivers behind us even entertaining other conversations was like, what if Reat won't do it?
Well, I think the big thing, Reat seemed to be, well, we had kind of heard that they were changing locations. They were getting a bigger thing. I had heard from a lot of people that they weren't taking any more new knife customers at that time, because we have a lot of friends that have Reat, that use Reat.
Yeah.
Then how did we get hooked? How did you get us hooked up with John? I forget.
So basically, a conversation with Brian Brown really helped a lot.
Yep.
I had him on the podcast. After the podcast, we kept talking. Brian has become a friend. I know you've met Brian as well.
Oh yeah, such a good dude.
And yeah, Brian basically introduced me to John, who is a U.S. contact for Reat. And we were able to have some phone calls with him, which was also a really good thing, because from the limited experience we had communicating with some of the other OEMs, it was not like it was with Reat. John being here in Southern California was really, really cool. We could talk to him on the phone. Yeah. And so it just kind of snowballed from there. And it was like, as soon as we realized we could work with Reat, we both got really, really excited, because their quality is through the roof. Like and I've said, if you look across the reviews on my channel, everything that's been Reat produced, the only time it's been a negative review, it's been because I didn't like the design. I've very, very, very exceedingly rarely found an issue on a Reat knife in terms of the build or the fit and finish or anything. Like they just nail it. They're really good at detents. They have phenomenal actions. Their tolerances are great. They build good knives. And so it was what felt best to us for sure to pick that route.
I think at that point too, we had both just gotten the F5.5 at the time, and where it's like even more jazzed about it, because that knife is truly built like really, really, really nicely. I mean, just let's listen to it. It's just it's a great, well built knife, and so we're like, oh man, this can be our production company, and that was really, really cool. That was our top choice.
Yeah.
And we had to go there.
And so one of the things that also made us feel better is you even mentioned the fear of like, if we show this design to the wrong person, that's a little scary. Yeah. And Reat was incredibly professional about it, and was also like, they made us sign stuff.
Yes.
There's like, it goes in both directions of like, we both have to keep if we're going to work together, then we have to like be able to keep things under wraps when it's necessary.
Right.
And so the fact that they keep our design under lock and key means a lot.
It truly does. It truly does. It's actually one thing that I have never, through the entire process, which we won't really get into, but I have never actually had, that's never been a concern about our design just kind of floating out in the ether. The software that they use to communicate with us is really, it's great. It's a great collaborative thing. Yeah. We feel like we have a direct line to them. And, John's there for us.
Right.
So, I think
having a U.S. contact makes a difference for sure.
Helps. It totally helps.
Yeah. Okay, so we landed on Reat. And then we gave them our design. They looked at the design. We had to make some subtle tweaks and stuff to make it work with their capabilities in terms of machining, which was expected. We knew with our 3D file, depending on who you take it to, they may need to it would work better if we machine it this way. So this has to move this tiny bit or whatever it is. So there were a couple little things like that. And then ultimately we get files back to us from them of how they can make it. And it was virtually identical to our 3D. Yeah. It was they really kept the soul of our knife, which was also important to us. Mm-hmm. And I think that was a benefit of some people will go to an OEM, whether it's Reat or otherwise, with just some drawings or maybe some 2D, and then they'll lean on the OEM to help them finish and take it to that 3D place. Yeah. And the fact that we already had 3D files that not only we had made for us, but like I said, we collaborated with Wes on so heavily, where we had, like, we watched the knife get turned into 3D, and it was exactly what we wanted as it was happening. Then when you take that 3D file, there was much less that could be lost in translation.
Yeah.
So
I
from
almost
there,
know what they actually tweaked at this point. Like, it was so minimal.
very, very minimal. And some of it was also us tweaking stuff along the way.
Yeah.
Like,
Oh,
ooh,
yeah,
while we're changing things, let's actually add more chamfering. Or like, you know, it's like,
let's go from flat to hollow. Like,
Yep.
I mean,
that was a change that I'm really, really glad we made.
oh, I'm so pumped about that. So slicey.
So we okayed those files, and then basically we paid for prototypes, and it was a waiting game. And then that kind of brings us to now, where the waiting game for prototypes is over. We have this version. There's one other colorway that we're waiting on prototypes of that took longer because they were being coated. So that other colorway is basically OD green micarta, and then everything else on it, the backspacer, the liners, the hardware, the clip,
everything,
the blade, are all PV coated black. Yeah. So that one's going to be different and also awesome. But this one is satin blade with black micarta and stonewash backspacer and liners. And it's, I mean, I'm thrilled with how these prototypes turned out.
Seriously, even before this call, before this podcast, like, we were talking about just tweaks, things that we were like, and literally there might not even like, the list is like 2 things.
Yeah. And both of them were kind of wishy-washy on.
I know, and we're both of them kind of wishy-washy on. Like, so that's how pretty much, like, what you see here is literally this is going to be the production model.
It's like, virtually a production sample. Yeah.
Yes, it is literally a production sample. The things that we are going to potentially tweak, you're never even going to know we touched it.
They're us being geeks.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how we've gotten to right now.
Yeah.
Let's kind of back up again, but in a different way. Okay. Why don't we tell people kind of how you have gotten into knives, and like what your, like, how are you in the knife community? Why are you in the knife community? What'd you start with? Just paint a picture of like who Ryan is, so that, because people who are listening to this, I imagine, have listened to my voice a lot more than yours. So
I mean, that's fair. That's fair. So COVID is created a lot of bored folks at home, right? I was one of those bored folks, and I've always, like, let's put it this way, I've always had knives in my life. Like, I'm an Eagle Scout, grew up with Swiss Army knives, always had a knife, but I never, you know what? I think the most expensive knife that I ever had prior to moving to Texas, so that was like, call it 15 years ago, I bought like a full-size Benchmade Deja Vu. And you've probably seen me have it. And so what happened, like, I had that for a long time and I would use it daily. And then through my moves and everything like that, I think I sold it. I think I didn't have knives for a very long time, but being in the EDC community, which, and Instagram, like, you have to kind of explain it to people who have no idea, but it is a world. It is a completely, it's like Ready Player One. You're just like, and you're in the EDC community, and it's intoxicating.
Yeah.
Bad and good. But like, if you want to spend your money, just go into the Instagram EDC community. But I guess I started looking at knives, and I started reminiscing about, I used to have this Benchmade, but I forgot what it was. And I kind of went on a hunt to try and figure out what it was.
Yeah.
Same time in Massachusetts, where I used to live 10 years ago, there were knives you couldn't own. And specifically, I remembered they were called Microtechs. And I'm like, so what started it all was in March of 2020, I bought a Dirac Delta, which you have reviewed.
Yep. Yours specifically. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. That exact one. And it was the most money I've ever spent on a knife in my entire life up until that point. Perspective has totally changed. But yeah, I got that and instantly became obsessed with knives. I have a very very collective personality. Prior to knives, the thing that filled that space for me where it was vintage Pez dispensers from like the 60s and 70s. I had a ridiculous collection. And like I was telling you earlier, like I like variants of things. So if there's multiple versions of a knife and it makes sense to have many of them, I will end up getting them. But I started small. The Microtech was a fluke for a very long time. I went, I'm sorry, I don't mean to offend you, but I started with Ganzo.
Doesn't offend me. You're all right.
and actually,
you were wrong, but it doesn't offend me.
Yeah, I was totally wrong, but I didn't know. I didn't know, right? Like,
yeah.
I was just looking at like, oh, these are really cheap knives. I didn't understand. There was a lot of designs that I didn't realize I was buying clones of.
Right.
And
when you knew it's especially forgivable because you don't know.
But I had like I think like Shabazz reached out to me, kind of like calling me out on owning Ganzos or something like that. And he's like, at least go QSP or Civivi. And those are brand new companies to me too. So I was like, okay. I ended up upgrading to like Best Techs. I got like a Best Tech Texel, which I still have. I love that knife. And then I got, then I started, okay, maybe $75 for a knife is okay. All right. I went there. And I have so many pictures of knives that I used to own that I just ended up selling. And that's, I guess, how people kind of get into the higher price points is you realize, oh, I have like $20, $50 knives. So let me sell all those and buy like,
a couple $200 or $300 knives. Yeah,
exactly. And I don't really know exactly what I went to. I think the Ace Grand was something you recommended. And at that point, it was really sold out all over the place. But I started kind of going down that path and getting more robust, vibrant. I don't know what a good word is in my spending.
Yeah.
At one point I decided I bought a Microtech Halo. That was fun for like a while, but impractical, so that's gone. But I want another one again.
Yeah.
And now that led to me meeting you. That led to me really getting into the knife community, which I don't feel like I can't not talk about me getting to know Keennison. So Keennison Knives on your podcast, 18, 19, 21, I forget which.
I don't remember what episode it was, but it was awesome.
Just go back a couple. I ended up seeing, I think it was from Something Obscene. I had followed Something Obscene company, and he had posted a Keennison knife, and I was in love with it. I had never gotten into the custom knife community, and so I went to follow the page and realized they were deep in the heart of Texas. So they said, and I'm like, well, I live deep in the heart of Texas. So I reach out to Brian, and I find out that they're literally like 45 minutes away, just right in Austin. And I'm like, okay. And like I told you, I'll just send messages to people and ask them stuff. So I was like, hey, Brian, hi.
Still trying to get murdered. Got it.
Still trying to get murdered. Hasn't happened yet. Still here. And I was just like, yo, so have you guys ever considered taking on an apprentice or, just having like somebody to kind of help out around the shop? I want to learn stuff. I have questions. And he's like, come on by. Because he's a super nice guy. Like he really is. And that was October of 2020. And I, at that point I did not know it yet, that I was about to get laid off my job and be completely jobless for 6 months. Which in hindsight really helped out on so many levels. But ended up going to Keennison at least once a week, if not twice. After a couple months, was using every machine they had, lathes, mills, blasting cabinets. I could anodize. I could, well, maybe not grind yet, but like I was learning a lot and I was having a good time and I was kind of getting to know the knife community. And that's when we kind of started talking about, well, that's when we started getting into this detail. And I was like, I have a lot more knowledge now. Let me go pick some brains. But yeah, now if you were to come over here, I have a stupid amount of knives. I have a ridiculous Microtech collection. And yeah, it's become like my lifestyle now. I now, I'm in the EDC community making these little things.
Yeah. So if you're listening, he's holding up a worry donut.
Oh yeah, that's very true. My worry donuts, which literally are a piece of brass or bronze or copper in the shape of a donut. There's a hole in the middle, right? And then I just partner it with other materials, and it's not meant to be a knuckle or anything like that. It's literally meant to just like twist on your finger, fidget with. And I did it. I made them for myself because I'm notorious for like biting my nails, and I needed something to kind of do. And I was also bored, and I had time, and thus created. And that's literally,
Yeah.
And what my side hustle is now.
And I can say I've got one.
Yes.
And when I talked to Ryan about getting, you'd been making them for a little bit, like months, I think, when I finally was like, all right, I got to get one. You're serious about these things. All right. And I'm not like a big challenge coin guy. I'm not a big anything in that space, like Nux, like that's not for me. I own some challenge coins that have either been given to me or I'm really close to the person who made it or whatever.
Yeah.
But I was like, let me just get one to try out. And you were like, what do you want on it? And I was basically like, surprise me. And you were like, tell me what colors you like. And so I was like, I don't know, like blue and orange would be cool. Yep. And so you made me this crazy, like fire and ice. You blended two materials in a really cool way. Like it's rad to look at, and it's brass on the bottom of mine.
Yep.
And I keep it now in the cup holder of the car. And I play with it all the time while I'm driving. I just twist it around in my hand. I have it on my finger where I can kind of roll it around. Yep. And it's like, it's one of the most pointless things that I own, speaking as your friend. But it's fun to have. And
I take that as a compliment. Seriously, it's pointless, but I've handed it to anybody and they're just like, oh, it's on my finger now. I get it.
It's a cool little thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So those are fun. And you've gone through a pretty crazy ride making those, where now, like, there's, from what I can perceive, you're having to do drops and stuff because more people want them than you can make with your full-time job that you're also working.
The full-time job kind of stepped in. Like, I think to date, I've made about 150 of these things. Not all the full size. There's some small ones too, but and I was doing like open books, go, but now I have a job that I actually really like, and so I'm still keeping this going because it's one thing to have a hobby and love doing it, but if it isn't at a certain point, I'm trying to figure out how to say this in the best possible way. At a certain point, if it's not worth doing in a way that it provides you like a learning experience or a monetary, return, it's hard to keep stuff going like that while trying to balance a job and a life. So this, I used to do music production. I used to there's plenty of things that I just did for fun that I still like, but I just don't have the time for, because at the end of the day, so you kind of understand what I'm saying there. Yeah. And it's not that it's not all about the money, but it's the fact that if I'm going to go spend a couple hours in my shop and make some donuts, I want to either make people happy. And at the end of the day, taking time away from my wife, taking time away from my animals, there's got to be a pretty damn good reason to,
Right. It's got to be compelling.
compelling. It's got to, be able to take my wife out to dinner because I made an extra, couple bucks making some donuts and
sure.
The whole thing. So helps
fund more Microtechs.
Yeah. God damn you, Afterpay and Sezzle. Seriously.
I haven't crossed that line yet. I'm sure it'll happen eventually, but I can't.
I don't understand how that honestly, how that stuff works, because it's like, oh yeah, I'll happily pay you in 4 installments with 0 interest. Cool. Send me my new Microtech now. I don't understand. It's like if you, it just seems too good to be true, but it seems like it's a new thing now. So
yeah, I don't know. I'm not in the business of lending, so
yeah,
I can't speak
seriously.
to what they're. I'm sure if you miss those payments, there are some severe penalties.
Oh yeah,
and
just don't miss those payments. Actually, it's something we should probably consider as a payment option for people.
Yeah. So when I worked for a startup doing automotive aftermarket parts and stuff, we added, I think it was Afterpay. It was one of the two.
Yeah.
And it was great because people, if they're buying like carbon fiber spoilers and a set of wheels and like with tires, like that's expensive stuff, you know?
Yeah.
And it helped increase our sales for sure.
Yeah.
But what was nice about it from a business perspective is we like Afterpay handled it if the person didn't pay. We got all the money just like we sold it to begin with. So I don't know how their business, again, like that's
right.
They've got to just kill people who mess up on hitting their payments. But otherwise they wouldn't be able to continue to exist.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we'll have to figure out a lot of that as we approach this pre-order. So we should talk some details about things that we do know so far.
Yes.
Because we get inundated with questions. We're recording this on, it's Friday today, right? Friday night.
Yeah, I've had the prototype for 2 days. You've had it for a day.
Yep.
The amount of comments that we're trying to keep up with would be ridiculously daunting and overwhelming for one person, and it's overwhelming for 2 people. So I'm glad that that we're in this together, buddy.
Yeah. So I can say yesterday I posted, I unboxed my prototypes at like 10:30, 11 a.m. And I immediately after recording the unboxing started downloading it from my camera onto the iMovie so I could edit, and then I started uploading it to YouTube, and it was up by early afternoon yesterday. And in the time that I was doing that, I had posted on my stories. I think I had put up my Instagram post. Maybe the Instagram post wasn't up yet. I had posted on the Luft Concepts page as well, and I had posted in 2 Facebook groups, just showing the knife, saying how excited I was that the prototypes were here.
Right, yeah.
And in hindsight, I probably should have slow rolled how many of those I did.
Right?
Because by the time that my YouTube video was live in the early afternoon, I basically had on YouTube, I think my most commented on video ever, except for maybe giveaway videos. But on giveaway videos, I don't respond to every comment. On this video, I made a point to. And then on Facebook, hundreds of comments.
Oh my
and
God.
Then on Instagram, hundreds of comments. On my personal, and then also on Luft Concepts page, a lot of comments. And tons of story replies, which go to your DMs. And I responded to everybody yesterday. And I basically was not a human being to anybody in the real world because I didn't exist other than in a digital space yesterday. Yeah. And it's like, that was day one with all the excitement. So of course I was getting back to everybody, but yeah, there's no way that we're going to, like, we will appreciate every comment. That should be said.
Every single comment. We appreciate it.
We welcome them. Every message, all of that. But we're 2 dudes who are also doing other things. Luft Concepts has only cost us money so far. So that's the reality. Anything else would be a lie, right?
That's a good way to say it, though.
So neither of us can afford to like act like a customer service representative for entire days at a time.
This is our full-time gig, because
correct.
This is at this point. I mean, we'd love it to be our full-time gig in the future, but right now. This is just starting. Correct. So again, we appreciate every comment. We welcome them. We read them at the very least and all that. Yeah. But yeah, a good thing that we're going to try to do and that we can do right here, right now, is to be pretty regular with updates. And there's a lot of common questions that we've been getting a ton of. So we'll answer those to the best of our ability, knowing what we know right now. Understand that there are a lot of variables that we're working through with this being our first time doing this. Like we just told you our story. You know that we're noobs, right? So based on the information we have right now and everything we're able to figure out,
this is kind of the conclusions we've come to for now. But the biggest questions we're getting are, how much is it going to cost?
Yep.
When can I order one?
Yep.
Where can I order one?
Yep.
And what is it going to be made of? Like, what's the blade steel, stuff like that.
Yeah, actual questions. Yeah.
So why don't we start? We'll put on our site, once the site is ready, all of this information will be listed in an easy to read way, but the site's not ready and people are asking these questions now. So we'll make some Instagram posts as well.
It is luftconcepts.com, but right now you can't get in. There's just like a page, but if you want to bookmark that, for later, go right ahead.
We have a few more things to get on there before it's ready for people to see. Again, we're new at this, and I think that's totally fine to be honest about and admit that this is our first time, both of us.
Yeah.
So let's start materials and kind of general specs about the knife. Why don't we walk through the versions? I've mentioned already what they are, but let's put them, if people are watching this part of the podcast or listening to it to hear. Maybe we can put
like a little bookmark on it. I don't know how YouTube works.
We can just tell people when it is. I don't know. The knives are going to be blades, M390, both variants. There will be 2 variants. Both variants will feature micarta scales, full titanium nested liners, a wire deep carry style pocket clip, and all titanium hardware.
And titanium backspacer.
And yes, titanium backspacer. Good catch. So all of that said, there is this version, which has black micarta and
like a vertical belt satin finish.
Vertical belt satin on the blade. And then you're looking at stonewashed titanium liners, stonewashed titanium backspacer. Right now, the hardware and the clip are a satin finish. That may stay the same. That may become kind of blasted or stonewashed as well or something. We're discussing it. Please don't tell us what you prefer. We're just going to figure it out on our own. Not to be a dick, but we're like,
seriously, like it's it's all titanium except for the clip. I'm pretty sure it's not titanium.
That'll be a steel. I don't know what steel they use, but
then the other one
they use on a wire pocket clip area.
Yeah. Then the other one will be OD green micarta and all black PVD coated everything else.
Yep.
And
the clip, the backspacer, the hardware, the liners, the blade,
screws,
everything.
Shebang. Yeah.
Yep. And all of our markings on the knives, the only thing you'll see when the knife is closed is on the flipper tab, the Luft Concepts logo, which we'll talk about why Luft and why that logo in a little bit.
Yeah.
But when the knife is open, you won't even see that. You won't see any markings on the knife anywhere. Internally, you'll see on my channel, by the time this goes live, that'll already be live. There's a disassembly video of this knife. You'll be able to see internally, there will be markings on the liner inside. So if you look in the right lighting, you'll be able to see it. When the knife is disassembled, you can really see it, but it'll say that it's M390. I don't know if we finalized everything it'll say inside, but that'll be where the information about the knife is listed that sometimes you would see on the blade by the plunge grind or whatever. We're keeping it sterile.
I think that one thing we didn't talk about, but maybe we should talk about now, I've been noticing that the inside of the backspacer is easily visible, and maybe that's where we number them.
True. That could be rad.
But like, that's the whole point. We wanted to keep this very, very clean looking. No offense to anybody out there that likes to use their knives as a billboard.
Microtech?
The
chicken talons.
I do not enjoy the chicken talon on anything. But yeah, this again, going back to it, we built this knife for us first and foremost, and this is the style we love. So very, very clean, very minimalistic. Everything's just hidden. Yeah. And to go into it more, the reason why, I mean, obviously, nice materials. We use really nice materials, but we also thought about the knife for, like, when we decided to actually make it a production knife. We wanted it to be like a knife that anybody could take and, in a way, make their own. Mm-hmm. So all titanium hardware, titanium backspacer. These are things that, you know, if you have the skills, you could take it apart and you could anodize them. You know, you could have that be your own little thing. The scales, in a way, to some CNC people, would be a very simple scale. And it's even something where we're considering in the future making like blank white G10 scales so that you could get a set and dye them your own way, because we want this to be your go-to knife.
Let's be clear, none of that is confirmed.
None of it's confirmed.
Us making any of that stuff.
Hypothetical things, but like these are things that Jake and I talked about.
Yeah.
And there's certain reasons why we built the knife to be the way it is right now.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, like don't quote us on that. Things change.
Correct. Yeah, we'll see what the future holds. But both of us, those are the things we nerd out about. So we wanted to have the option moving forward. So we designed it to be capable of that.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've talked materials. That's what they'll be made of. Let's talk basic specs. So we can talk weight, blade length, stuff like that. Again, on the site, once it's up, I'll make a point to do like really specific measurements and all that kind of stuff. I'm not generally a specs guy, but this is a time where we probably should be pretty specs heavy. So again, materials we've already talked about. The blade M390, we're at 3.4 inches, correct?
I believe it's 3.4 to the scale, but the actual cutting edge is 3.
Right, because we've got forward choil on there and all that. Is that 0.4 of an inch? I don't know. Yeah, right about 3 full inches of cutting edge.
Yeah,
3.4-inch blade. And then in terms of overall length,
I think we're at about 7.5 inches. No, 8.
I think we're at 8.
We don't know.
No. Okay, so let's let go of that. Look to the specs when it comes up. Weight, we do know.
Yep.
Weight is 2.9 ounces.
Yes.
Not heavy. This knife is very lightweight. Considering it's a almost 3.5-inch blade, to be sub 3 ounces is, I can hang my hat on that. I love it. I think the hollow grind has a lot to do with that. This blade is really light.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
7.8 inches in length.
Okay.
7.8 inches in length. Yeah.
So we've got a little over 4 inches of handle.
Correct.
Or 4.4 inches of handle, actually.
So it's honestly, it's very similar to the Ace Grand. It's very similar to, it's actually it's not as long as the Spyderco PM2, because the PM2 generally has more handle to it.
I can hold
it's
up
at
both.
the very bottom. It gives you that little extra. Yeah, that's actually a pretty good. So, but generally it's the same, about the same cutting edge on those. Like
real close, yeah.
Yeah, it's
kind of between a PM2 and a Para 3.
Yeah, it's kind of the sweet spot.
Which again, I think there should be a theme here. We were both very selfish in all of the decisions we made for this knife, come what may. We wanted the knife to be the size that we wanted to carry. Exactly. We weren't like, what size is the most marketable, or what size is the, like, it was what size knife do we want in our pockets for the first knife we ever make together. And that's what we landed on. So to us, this is a sweet spot where, especially for me, like this is absolutely primary knife territory. I can carry this front right pocket all day long and be confident in its capabilities. I've also been carrying it back left pocket because I've had 2 of them in my possession until I send the loaner one out. I've been carrying them in both pockets, and it's comfortable enough there too, where for people who prefer bigger knives, this is absolutely doable.
Yep.
As a secondary.
It's really got a great blade to handle ratio. It doesn't feel disproportionate.
Right.
I think, like, I know there's, like we said, safe space, but we can toot our own horn. Like we did a good job, right? I think we did a good job, buddy.
I am proud of what we did.
I'm proud of it.
Yeah. I've got no problem saying that I'm very, very happy with how it came out.
So happy. We've been little kids on Christmas Eve for like we're still going to be. This is such a great milestone in our lives, man.
Yeah, it really is. Okay. So specs, we're at 2.9 ounces, almost 8 inches overall length, 3.4-inch blade. That's the basic stuff. We'll give, like, I would need to get out calipers for handle scale thickness. I'm trying to remember blade stock thickness that we chose. Again, we'll list all that out in another place, but baseline information.
I guess if you have a PM2, it's about the same thickness, the stock thickness. If you hold them up, it's roughly.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. Ours is a slightly thicker than a PM2.
Is it?
Slightly.
I'm holding it up to what feels like the thickest spot on both, and it feels like there.
them together like this, and like kind of slightly.
I don't know. It's funny because we're the designers of this knife, and
Yeah.
I think a lot of designers are really, really particular about like I'm going to use a blade stock thickness of X, and for us it was more like let's get the proportions to look and feel like right for us and feel right in the hand, and the 3D print determined that we were correct when we made those decisions. And for me, I forget all those things as soon as the knife is real, because I don't care whether it's 0.16 or whether it's 0.13 blade stock.
The only thing we cared about, honestly, was that it was
thin behind the edge and that the grind was right. So this hollow grind Riat freaking destroyed. They did so good.
Oh, good.
Really thin behind the edge. I do need to put my calipers on that, but it is, I mean, it is thin and slicey.
Daniel from Keenison, the guy that grinds all their knives, I was showing him this and he goes, before you even said anything, I was going to tell you that grind was like super crispy, like really, really good. And I'm like, all right, it's good. I mean, it's just good to hear from somebody that does it by hand that this is
knows what they're doing too. Yeah.
And I find myself kind of getting lost staring at the grind lately. I'm just like looking at this knife. The hollow grind makes it really nicely too, because it was going to be flat ground first.
Right.
But
I love flat ground blades. I think they certainly have their place, but that thinness behind the edge that this one accomplished, and I've been using it like absolute crazy for the last 30 hours that I've had it.
Yeah.
Just cutting. I'm like a hammer in search of a nail. I'm a knife in search of anything it can cut. Because it's the most excited I've ever been to cut things. It's my freaking knife. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
and I'm someone who cuts things a lot. So yeah, it's really, really impressing me how well they did with it. And we gave them a targeted thinness behind the edge, and I think they must have hit it, because even though I haven't put calipers on it yet, it's good. Well, and it's a tall hollow, so it doesn't. I hate it when hollows are really stubby and they get thick too quick, because then if you're cutting through something like cardboard, you're hanging up on the top where it thickens out so quick. But this is nice, and it's a gradual, kind of a shallow hollow, and I like it.
And if you look at, and like, I'm not saying anything bad about this. This is a staple. Everybody should have a PM2 in their freaking collection, but it being the same, stock thickness.
Ours is way thinner behind the edge.
Oh yeah, and I think we had noticed that in just by looking at a 3D render, and we were like, that doesn't look like it's gonna make us as happy as we want.
Right.
And so like the hollow grind, I think, was one of the last things that we tweaked before.
We were flip-flopping on it.
Yeah, we were. And I'm glad we went with this.
Yeah, we made the right decision there.
Definitely.
Okay, so that's one of the main questions is like, what is it going to be made of? What is the knife actually like? Because people are seeing it in our hands, but there's no like source that they've been able to go to.
A large, maybe an extra large.
I'm a medium, but I fill it out real well. So the other main questions were when, how much, that kind of stuff. So let's start an easy one that's a quick answer. How much do we plan on selling our knife for street price? Not like some MSRP that it's not going to actually go for. What do we plan to sell it for people who pre-order it?
Yep.
Do you want to answer, or should I?
You want to say it together? So we have a drum.
3, 2, 1, $299.
There we go. There was a bit of hesitance for a second, but no, it's gonna be $299. Yeah.
So there's a lot of details that come to selling a knife. Yep. As I'm sure you can imagine, if you have any idea what running any business is like. It's not just the cost of the goods, it's also factoring in shipping, it's also factoring in packaging, being able to go through quality control period is a whole thing, being able to there's not only are we planning on doing some fun packaging things, which we're going to say nothing about because we want it to be a surprise, but we plan on including some things in that packaging experience, if you want to call it that some of which will be typical for nice knives to come with, some of which we hope will be atypical. We want to have fun with it. And so there is a reality to having to figure all that out before saying a price. So a ton of people have asked me the price over the last couple of days, and I haven't been telling anybody. I've just been saying we'll announce it soon, because it wouldn't have been fair to be like, we think it'll be this, and then change it. So at this point, we spoke for a long time before we started this podcast. We figured a lot of that out. We're confident at $299, that's where we're going to be set if you're pre-ordering the knife. Which takes us to our next point of
pre-order.
When. And the how is that it'll be a pre-order. That's the plan right now. We may, none of this is certain, so don't hold us to this. We may include a retailer or two who will have some of these knives when they are done. That's not certain. What we are certain we're going to do is a pre-order. That will be the main way to purchase these knives. And I think we haven't picked a firm date. We don't know certainly a date or time, but we're planning for mid-August is what we both feel.
Because obviously our site right now needs content. We have a lot of rendered designs, but that's not what you want to buy a knife off of. So we got to get photos up there. We have to start figuring out, for the first time for both of us, how to take money on a site, where to put this money, and then how to make sure that the site doesn't crash and that you're getting a really good experience the entire time, that the email list works. So there's a lot of stuff that up to this point we could kind of prep for, but we were kind of waiting for the prototypes to hit our hands before we could really start making the big drastic moves to get this pre-order. So mid-August sounds like a good target date. And we'll do our best to try and get it done by then. I would say
I'm pretty confident we can do that.
Yeah, I'd say worst case scenario, the third week of August. But this is it's game time now. It's no more. We've been twiddling our thumbs for a while, waiting on this, knowing this was inevitable. So now priority levels have shifted.
And we are still waiting on the other half of prototypes.
We are too.
We want to make sure we've got images for people to see. We've got breakdowns, all kinds of stuff. We need to have our ducks in a row. And so we're still waiting on half of the prototype knives to get here. The good thing is, with these prototypes already being here, if this was exactly the knife we were selling, I'd put my name on it. And that's really, really nice to be able to say, because it could have been the case that we got prototypes from Riyadh or whoever ROE is, and there are a lot of changes we need to make, and that resets the clock. That's not the case. These prototypes are nailed, and so we're confident and ready to move forward. But we do need to see the other variant, verify that we like that colorway in person, all that goes well, and then all those logistical ducks need to be in a row, and then we can go ahead and do that. So we will make sure before the pre-run goes live that there will be plenty of warning through each of our social media outlets, through the Luft Concepts social media, and then also I'll announce it on my YouTube channel. We'll probably send out an email blast by that time if we can have the site functional with one, pending that works.
That's probably the thing that I'll probably get cracking on this weekend, figuring out how to just, even though luftconcepts.com is locked right now, if there's a way I can have a sign up for an email newsletter on that main page so that we can at least start getting you guys in the queue for information. That's something I could probably start getting done. So expect that to happen soon.
Perfect. So there's a lot that each of us need to do. And one of the fun things too about us being partnered on it is I feel like we have pretty complementary roles. Ryan is way better at the website stuff than I am. And content creation is kind of what I do. So I'm gonna be taking a ton of photos and videos and all kinds of stuff. And so in many ways we're working together on this. But what are the other main questions that we should answer? We're shooting for mid-August. We're at a $299 price point, which is great because our goal all along was to be sub $300, and we're there. We figured out that we're confident we can do that.
Lefties, we have thought about you because the clip is interchangeable and it's
reversible clip.
Liner lock, so you don't have to worry about having a frame lock there. So we got that covered. So there you go. Canadians, we're doing our best. We're trying to figure it out for our first run. You may just have to find a buddy. But we're not just leaving it at that. We're still continually trying to look, because we've gotten a lot of Canadians asking how are we going to ship there. So
Canadians and European market. We're working on solutions. We're not positive on run number 1 of our first knife or first anything as a company that we're going to be able to have those things in place. But we're doing our damnedest to try. So
absolutely. Let's see, what turnaround time is nothing. We can't answer that right now. I wouldn't know how to answer that. I've honestly been just based off of the fact that I have 4 knives on pre-order right now. I've been kind of ballparking 4 to 6 months. I think that's literally safe these days.
Right. I've been telling people my fingers are really, really crossed. If we're able to do our pre-order mid-August and everything goes ultimately like perfectly smoothly, no major setbacks, anything like that, then there's a slim chance, but I wouldn't plan on it, that the knives will be in customer hands before the end of 2021.
Yeah. That
would be pipe dream. I would love it. We will be actively pushing. Obviously, the thing we want most in the world is for this to happen quickly. So we're going to do everything we can. But more realistically, with both of us trying to be realists bordering on pessimists so that we're not setting people up for a letdown, probably be early 2022 would be when knives ship into customer hands. Done. Again, if that's faster, awesome. But the last thing I want is to be the type of maker who on their first run is like, we're going to have these 2 in freaking September. And then people are getting them 5 months after that. Like, I don't want to be that guy.
Yeah.
And as soon as we get timetables from RIAT, once our PO is placed, then of course we're going to share that, and we'll share updates all along the way. But
like the best part too is, I mean, how many knife pre-orders have you done in the last year? Let's be.
You don't know how many I'm on right now?
Well, yeah. How many are you on right now?
So right now I have
you have a list like I do.
4 knives pre-ordered, and they're all being produced by RIAT. I have the Weir Lucas P.
Okay.
I have the Brian Brown Raptor.
I have that one as well.
I have an SOC J Cape.
Okay.
You already have a J Cape.
I already have a J Cape.
And then I have Renegade EDCs or Renegade Provisions Co. Gungnir. So I've got 4 all RIAT produced knives, all of which I think the first one I ordered, that's in order of how I ordered them. I think the Weir, then the Raptor, then the J Cape, then the Gungnir. And I've received quite a few knives already this year that I had pre-ordered previously.
Yeah, man, I have. Okay, wow, yeah. So I have the Brian Brown Raptor. I have the Arcane Design Necronaut V2.
Ah, nice.
I have the Gungnir, and then I'm gonna have to wait a friggin' year, but I have an Evo 3.
Oh, I did that one too. I should put that on my list.
Yeah, you just put it out of mind because it's like it's not
so far
year.
Out.
It's like 13 months away.
Yes, correct.
Yeah,
Evo 3.0. That's on my list now too. Good.
But,
yeah.
You know, so as customers, we've been there and we know what it's like to be, kind of like overpromised and underdelivered on. And we don't want to do that. And the best part about you and I is that in a room, we're both bad cop. Right. We're not passive. So we really like to get stuff moving along. We don't really let people walk on us. And that's not, alluding to anything. It's just like we get stuff done.
We're dicks and we know it. Yeah.
Yeah. We're dicks and we know it, but like it's for everyone else's benefit. So
right.
Like that's why we're going to do everything we possibly can to make everyone's Christmas a very merry one. But at the same time,
the reality is,
it might be Valentine's Day.
I hope people can also understand.
Yeah.
Again, this is our first go around.
Oh yeah.
And it would be impossible to do this project without doing a pre-order. The two of us would love to just out of pocket fund a run of 300 plus knives.
And then just say, hey, they're available in 2 weeks, right?
Which that probably does actually answer another question that people will be wondering. We plan to do at least 300, possibly more. At least 300 of these are what we were going to order.
Down the middle.
150 of each variant. Yeah.
Yeah.
So We could not possibly
Not at all.
order that run of knives from an OEM like Reat and have them be what we want them to be and alleviate a pre-order. Like, it just wouldn't, it wouldn't work. And that's kind of the way, to be fair, that the knife market currently functions for this kind of thing with a boutique brand like we're becoming.
Thank you for saying boutique brand, because I've been kind of pushing that. That's what it is.
Yeah.
All these companies that we were just talking about, they're all boutique brands, right?
Yeah. These knives that I have pre-ordered, that's what these people are too. Which like, it would be cool to be considered on that list. That's a wild thought.
I mean, at this point, I'm just happy to be even in the same parking lot, you know. Yeah. But one thing that you and I have continually talked about is that we don't want it to always be like this. So, correct. You know,
it's a means to an end for right now.
Right. It's a means to an end. And like, you know, should this be a very successful pre-order, we're not going to like go and just, you know, party and go live it up and buy private jets. We're going to take this money and buy and get more knives, so that there is like maybe not a pre-order for the second one. Maybe we just announce this is the date they're going to all drop, which would be very exciting.
Or even if we can accelerate the timeline so that people aren't getting into a pre-order until production has already been going for a while.
Exactly.
Like making moves like that, like where people aren't waiting as much, and then eventually where people don't have to wait at all is our goal.
That is our goal. And I'm pumped that we share that same goal, because right now, like, we can do that. We have, you know, we're not relying on this to feed us.
Right. Which is why we can't answer all of your comments.
Which is why we can't. We want to. We really want to.
We can answer all of your comments, or we can work on eliminating you having to pre-order a knife and you can just buy one. You pick. Do you want me to answer your comment, or do you want me to hold on to your money for 6 months while you wait for a knife?
Well, the nice thing about all your comments is it's actually going to help us kind of come up with an FAQ.
That's true.
Because like at this point, that's another thing I could probably start.
I should be careful. It sounds like I have contempt for people who comment, and I love it. I have contempt for my inability to get to all of them. That's what I have contempt for.
If you follow me on my page, I try and comment I respond to everybody that comments, and I try and make each one different. Not in the purpose of like I'm totally blind to what you're saying, but like, I also have been somebody that's commented on stuff that has literally gotten a copy paste all the way down the same, like, thanks, thumbs up emoji. And like, I know what it's like to be on the other side. So
give me a different emoji at least. Yeah.
Yeah. Give me a different emoji. Make me feel a little special.
But I want to shock it, bro.
Like, at the same time, it's really tough. And like, we can be on top of it, commenting, and then like, you know, God forbid we go and have dinner, and then we come back and then there's like 45 new comments, and we're like, okay.
And that's just on Instagram. That's the thing too.
Right? So we're not going to neglect. We will do our best to respond to everybody, and there will be waves of lots of responses, and then there will be waves of silence as we're maybe doing a video to try and answer a bunch of this stuff. But either way, our goal is to stay in 100% communication in one way, shape, and or form very consistently.
Right. And we do have the advantage of there being two of us. Not only that there's two of us who are capable of responding to things, but there's also two of us who are capable of making content.
Yes.
And like, yeah, I don't know. It's gotta be, I think of Brian Brown, because I learned so much from doing my podcast with him. I really love the way that guy thinks and operates. And that dude has custom books, and he's in his shop working on knives constantly. And his social media is doing great. And people are asking him questions, and he's doing runs of knives with Reat, like we're now starting to do. And he's able to like juggle being a nice guy who's answering questions, keeping people from feeling like they're in the dark all the time.
Yeah.
All while also making some of the most incredible custom knives I've ever seen. And Seriously. It's like, so I have hope that between the two of us, we will be able to do a really good job at keeping questions answered and making sure people don't feel in the dark. Especially like the worst is when you've pre-ordered a knife and you've already like given your money, and it's been 3 months since you've heard anything from the company or the maker. And it's like, even if the update is just like things are going well, they're at this point in production, like any kind of like we know that you're still there waiting. That means a lot. And so we're going to make great efforts to be communicative and be helpful and make sure people know what they want to know, because we're also stoked that we're in this position. Like it's flattering that we get to be on this side of it now. And I don't know, I feel like the biggest nerd in the world with how excited and happy it makes me that I'm getting to like live this side of the industry after being on the receiving end of it for so long.
Dude, that makes two of us. We're just two nerds with a knife company now. That's wonderful. No, but like, and that's the thing. Like, we can easily split the responsibility, and it's not a responsibility in the traditional sense that it's like work. This is fun, but like, you guys are providing a lot of fun for us right now, like an overwhelming amount of fun.
Right.
So like, this is like going back to what you said, like, I can't even imagine how Brian handles it all, or how Felix, or even Israel, I'm just like, and we're lucky right now. I'm very lucky to have you, my friend, as a business partner. So
goes both ways.
Yes, sir. I feel it.
So let's talk for a second about why Luft, like the name behind it. And do you want to start, or do you want me to?
Oh, wow. I think you can tell it better.
Okay.
Yeah, I think ultimately it was your idea.
It was our idea.
Well, it was a brainstorming, but you planted Luft.
Okay, so basically a big part of how Ryan and I bonded from the get-go was that not only were we both into the same knives and found we had absolute parallel tastes, but we also bonded over the fact that both of us were into cars, and specifically German car culture.
German car, yes.
So both of us have an affinity for several of the same very cool German cars that we both drool over. And I come from kind of an automotive background. I sold cars for a long time. I sold for both BMW and Audi. And so we've both just kind of been into that world. And I used to do automotive photography. Ryan, you've been to a bunch of car meets. Like there's a lot of...
Yeah, I mean, I've been a Volkswagen Auto Group nut entire life. Yeah.
He loves the badge, VAG. Yep. So we had bonded over the fact that we were both into that, and we'd had a couple of conversations specifically surrounding like old air-cooled Porsches.
Oh yeah.
And so as we were trying to decide what to call our company and the knife, we wanted it to be cohesive, the name of the brand and the name of the products that we'll make within the brand.
Right.
And so basically the way Avant came, which will make Luft make sense, is we looked at the knife, and I think this is the order it happened in. We looked at the knife, and basically the way that this line works, if you're listening, I'm pointing to the back of the handle where it would rest in your palm if you're holding it. It has this slant that is reminiscent of in Audi what they call their kind of wagons, but it's a type of wagon. They call them Avants. And it's like a wagon that has a little bit of slant to it, and
like sport backed wagon. Yeah.
And so
it's a sporty wagon.
Like if you're to look at a model, which both of us, it's probably our favorite Audi model, I think we'd agree on. The Audi RS6 is so good. And I used to drive an A6, and the RS6, which now they've got them in the US again, which is really, really exciting after a long gap of not selling them. But it's called an Avant. Yes. And so we both really liked that. And you can tell we're both excited about them like weird little kids. But knowing that, we were like, it would be cool if the knife is called the Avant, because it makes sense for this knife. It's just a cool way to tie it in to something that we've both already agreed upon.
It wasn't designed based off of the fact that like the profile of an Audi Avant. No. We were looking at it and we're like, you know what this reminds us of?
If it was a car, what would it be?
The back of an Avant. So anyway, And now talk about Luft, because
Yeah, so then we start brainstorming what would we call the brand that would make sense to play off of both of our love for car culture or German cars, or like how do we make that make sense? And I used to go to some specific like air-cooled Porsche meets. There's one that's really cool. It's called Luft. It's just German. I don't even know if I pronounced that right, but it's just German for air-cooled.
Yeah.
And it's only air-cooled Porsches that get to go. And I used to take photos at these events. I loved being there. And I've always had an affinity for like the 964, 911. It's just gorgeous. Both of us, we've nerded out over slant noses and RWBs and like just cool like Porsche culture stuff.
Yep.
And so I thought about the word Luft, and it's a 4-letter word that I think is cool, looks cool in print, and it just means the word air in German. Yeah. And so it's also not like it has to be car related if you're looking at it as just a word, but to us it is,
right?
And it ties in. And so we like the idea of creating this ethos for our knives where Luft is the brand, and it means air, which could mean aerodynamics, air cooled, whatever. Yeah. And if we pick by looking at the knives as we design them, and like with the Avant, determining what German car that we both drool over does it feel like. Yeah. It's a fun way to name our product line. So ultimately that's all it really means. And then the symbol, our logo, is just the alchemy symbol basically for air. Yeah. Which Luft means air. So it's just kind of this cool synergy, and we both like the way that the symbol looks, and yeah, that's kind of how it happened.
Yeah, it's very simple. It just kind of like when we started talking about it, you were like, what about Luft? And I was like,
I loved it.
But seriously, like, yeah, it just worked. I think that we were potentially going down a path where we were overthinking things. Oh, yeah. But to anybody who's ever tried to name a band or name a business, you can feel our pain. It's tough to think about it. You'll overthink it. You'll underthink it. So it just, I don't know. I think it honestly took us like less than a day to figure this out, which was great. And yeah, now it makes a lot of sense. And it rolls off the tongue nicely.
Yeah, we're happy with it. It looks cool. Yeah. It sounds cool to us. To a lot of people, it could make no sense and be totally meaningless. But I think Luft is also easy enough to remember. We also made a specific decision to not call ourselves Luft Knives and to call ourselves Luft Concepts, because we want to leave the door open that if we want to design other things, which we're both interested in more than just knives. Knives is the focal point for both of us. But if we want to design something else, and we've talked about some pretty fun, unique things that we'll keep secret. But if we were to, then Luft Concepts can be a brand that carries more than just knives. Right. And we like the idea of that because both of us are just interested in stuff and designing.
Cool stuff. Just exactly. Leave the door open. Who the heck knows? Obviously, we're not going to say anything, but if we build half the things that we were ever talking about, it'll be a very, very, very cool product line.
A diverse line for sure.
So diverse.
And yeah. And it'll be funny to those who get it. That's for sure. All right. So we've talked about kind of what our process has been in design. We've talked about why REAT. We've talked about kind of who you are and how you exist in the space. We've talked about, let's talk a little bit. I guess we kind of went over our design process pretty well of how it just kind of works where one of us will draw something. I say one of us because we've worked on another design. I guess we can talk about that process without showing it or giving anything detail-wise away about it. But the first knife that we designed, the Avant, you drew an initial drawing. I kind of red penned it. We went back and forth. We started creating protos. We got it to 2D. We kept working, all that. On the second one, it was the opposite. So that one, I drew the first initial drawing, and then we kind of scanned it so that you could draw on it electronically.
2D. Yeah, I made it 2D and then sent you back. Basically, the 2D version was literally like, I scanned your drawing, made it 2D.
Yep.
And I think I sent that back, but then I sent back like my red lines on it.
Yep.
And I think we're pretty close to due for another Zoom call on it, but it's gone back and forth now. I think two full times, and we're pretty close to a second design.
I've been staring at it enough and like brooding over it enough that I feel 98% happy with it. It's like we're at the point where it's really finite things that are just getting bumped around a tiny bit, but the design I think is pretty well there.
Yeah. And I mean, I know both of us would love to talk more about it, but this is the Avance time.
Correct. Yeah. Yeah.
Cloud the waters at the moment. Just know
don't ask for any timelines.
Yeah. Zero timelines.
Please know what is the price. It's not.
It's not. We're not even going to give you a hint on anything else. Just know that another design is in the works. But how we've been kind of talking about it all is that we're not in a race to put out as many knife designs as possible. We want, and we're also not trying to do it in a way where we're just like going to milk something forever, unless it turns out to be a knife that people just can't get enough of. And in that case, we're still not going to milk it, but
we want to satiate demand, but we're not. Yeah.
And at the same time, we're going to try. I think honestly, I probably could speak for both of us. This second design, we would really love it to be something that just appears one day. And like the prototypes, and like it could be one of those things where you have to wait a couple weeks because we've already kind of like gotten to that point. And that's how we kind of want to strategically play it, and not just be a company where it's just like we have 2 pre-orders a year and you never really we want to get past that. So with the second version, that's the goal.
Yeah. And again, I love that you verbalized that we're not in a rush. Like,
not in a rush.
Both of us are excited, and
I'm so excited.
But we're not making rushed decisions, and we're not like trying to force anything, I think is the big thing. Like, we're trying to make things move as quickly as they can because of our excitement. But there's no like,
when there's something to be moved, we want it to move quickly.
Correct.
But design process, we're not rushing. And we've all seen, you and I've seen, I'm sure anybody's listening to this, seen companies that can grow too big, too fast. And this is not in the knife world. This is everywhere.
Yeah.
And sometimes you can grow too big, too fast, and you just like cloud the waters, kind of lose sight of why you were originally doing it. And that can eventually sometimes be a company's downfall.
Right.
And honestly, when we first started talking, we had no idea where this was going to go.
Right.
But as we kind of went down the road, got hooked up with Riot, we started realizing that this could be eventually our full-time gigs down the line.
But our vision has remained really simple the whole way through.
Like,
we're not trying to reinvent anything here.
No, not at all. We're just
trying to have fun and do like the idea that, like for me in particular, starting my YouTube channel and this podcast and all of that has already been a way to take my hobby and make it more than just a hobby. Right. And at this point, like my YouTube channel and all that for me is like a side hustle. I can't live off of it, but it makes me some money, and it's very gratifying for me to do, and I enjoy it. And it's a unique place for my entire life. And some people go their entire, like they live and die without ever getting to do their hobby as much as they would like to do it, let alone make money off of it.
Yeah,
and
so right there with you.
Yeah. So the idea that the two of us can take what's been our hobby and our passion and something that we're just really into and make it something that could become a career path through doing production runs of designs that we create. Like that's just it's a wild concept.
It's a wild
that could be us who's doing it. And but also neither of us are counting any eggs before they hatch.
Right.
Like, if everything tanked because everyone ends up hating our design and we're just the only idiots who like it, then like
we got our own knives, and that's it.
We got what we wanted,
that's
and
exactly
we got to have our knives.
We're already happy. We're literally already happy. We think that you're going to be super happy with it. The responses we've gotten so far would lead us to believe that.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, we built these knives because we wanted to make our own knives. And going back to not rushing, we just want to take our time, make all the right decisions. We believe in this. We want it to grow into something fruitful that doesn't have like a weak foundation.
Right.
And you can grow too fast, you forget to like let that cement set, and the foundation's going to crack, type of thing. Not to get all metaphorical, but that's just the more and more you hear from me, I throw metaphors in all the time.
So. I dig it. Metaphors help me understand.
There you go.
Okay, so if we've talked about kind of our origins, we've talked about kind of our vision for the future. What else do we need to explain about Luft? Because I feel like this is one of those moments where we've just kind of got it's finally our chance to talk about everything. And I feel like I'm definitely forgetting things because we've been our heads in this space for so long. I'm trying to think about what people would want to know about how we've gotten to where we are and what we're doing.
Common questions, very common questions are you going to do other materials in the future?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. I mean, yes, absolutely. We chose micarta because micarta is our favorite material for scales, but titanium will be in the works at some point. Yep. I'm a big fan of also like a heavier knife.
Heavy metal.
Yeah, like heavy metal. So we'll probably do like brass or bronze somewhere down the line. Notice I'm saying somewhere down the line. I'm not quoting anybody on any time frames. These are all things that, like, this knife would look good in a lot of different materials. We will kind of jump off those bridges when we get there, but no material is out of the question. Let's just put it that way. And as far as blade material, we like experimenting with stuff. So,
people who know me probably know that I can be geeky about blade material. So,
well, I mean, look at your shirt.
I'm literally wearing, the Niche Designs, if you know shirt that I named, covered in blade steels. I can tell you what won't ever be on our knife. I'm pointing to right now.
Yep, it will never be on our knife. Never.
No S35 VN out of principle.
I'd love doing some tool steels like 3V. Would be kind of fun.
M4 would be cool.
M4 would be really cool.
If we can start playing with some Magna Cut, if React can do it, I would love to do that.
I did think it would be fun to create a saltwater version of this with the little Van Axe. That would be fun. That would be fun. I'm also not opposed to having don't hate me, but a partially serrated version of this blade down the line.
If we're doing partially serrated, we're doing full serrated.
Fine, full serrated. That's fine. I mean, if it's like a saltwater knife, it might be great. I mean, guys, everybody listening to this, we're just now we're going down the nerding.
This is how our phone calls usually go.
But we're just excited about this because they're just if we're the consumers of this knife, if this was being presented to us from another company, we would just nerd out at the potential. Like, what else could we do with this knife? What else? What other possibilities are there?
Yep. If I had the keys to the shop, what would I do to this? And we're in this weird position where we kind of got the keys to the shop on this.
Kind of have the keys to the
shop. Not the literal shop, but metaphorically.
Yeah. But yeah, so that's been a common question. All I'd have to say is just be patient. The material you're thinking of will most likely happen at some point. And it's all based off of the success of each run.
It depends what material you're thinking of, though, to be fair. Because if it's a material that neither of us like, odds are that we probably won't do it.
That's a good point. Like, we're not going to do wooden scales. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I wouldn't particularly. For the Avant, I don't know how much I'd think it would make sense. Although you can kind of play into like
maybe inlays,
the wooden trim inside of the vehicle. Like
that's true. That's true. Inlays aren't out of the realm of possibility. This is a very inlayable knife. Okay, so maybe I take that back. I don't know. I guess every suggestion, every idea, we'll just toss on the drawing board and see what it looks like.
We're the gatekeepers. We have to like it.
Absolutely, yeah, that's true. That's true. We understand 100% have to like it because I'm gonna have one of each, and I don't want to not have one of my knives because I don't like the blade material or the scale material.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, let's see what other. Off the top of my head, yeah, I can't honestly think of anything more. Any other comments popping out in your head? People
I
have asked.
don't think so. I think what we will do soon is
Yeah.
we'll hop on together on a live and
Yeah.
we'll answer comments kind of as they come in as best we can. I think that'll be good. I'm sure it'll be a lot of saying 299 and saying mid-August.
And we'll try for Canada and we'll try for Europe. Like we
Yeah.
will. Promise.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we've done a pretty good job of painting how we got to now, what our vision is. Our vision is somewhat blurry because we're open to what the future holds, but we have another design in the pipeline. We have goals to eliminate pre-orders at least partially and then eventually altogether. We
have some interesting thoughts about, dare I say, collaborations, but not in the traditional sense, and that's all I'll say there.
Correct.
Very interesting thoughts.
We both have some fun maker and designer friends that we
we do
like.
So there are things. We're just having fun with this. That's the whole point. I think that we will never put ourselves in a position where this is not going to be fun.
Yeah. Here, I think this is a good way of putting it.
Okay.
If you look at our knife, if you look at the Avant, a lot of people have said a ton of different knives that they can see in this knife. And I think if you create any knife today, there's going to be some element of that. Yes. But I've heard a lot of people say Arius. I think the blade is very Arius-esque, which is funny because as we were designing it, we never noticed that until someone said it. And they were like, yes, it does. A lot of people say there's an element of PM2 in it. Maybe the forward choil, like the dimensions of the handle seems kind of Para 3 PM2-esque. Something I had never heard until yesterday was the American Blade Works Model 1. And I totally see it now that people have said.
Is it just the handle? Because I was looking at it too. It's not the blade.
Just the handle, yeah.
It's the handle, yeah.
But there's a lot of things that people point to. People have said giant mouse knives because of the crown spine. And Strider with this handle kind of angle back here. There are a lot of things people could point to where they say that seems like another knife, and they're right. Because the two of us are such nerds about so many knives, and I've reviewed so many knives, and Ryan has owned so many knives that we know really, really well at this point what we like and what we don't like. Yeah. And so this knife, it's a total blend of so many things that we've learned through our experience, right? And the business, I think, metaphorically, here we go, I'm being you. I think it's kind of the same as the Avant in that way, where when we look at the brands and the makers, the companies that we like to buy from and whose products we like, and the people who we kind of idolize, who they get to do what we wish we did, we're now crafting our company based on not only some examples that we like that we see, but we're thinking, like with our knife, okay, we get to do whatever we want now. And so we're like kids in a candy store who are thinking like, what's the craziest, stupidest packaging thing that we can do that'll be fun? What's the dumbest t-shirt we can come up with that we'll both think is funny? Like just dumb things that we are getting a kick out of because we want to.
Yeah, because again, we're doing all this for us.
The knife it's because we wanted it.
Yeah,
the company surrounding it is now because we want it.
Right. Like, and we want to have fun with it. We find humor in a lot of the same things, and not that like we're trying to develop a humorous brand, but we want our brand to be very lighthearted and
be fun,
super fun. Our brand will never be associated with death metal, and that's not calling anybody out. I'm just saying that like. We want you to kind of never know what to expect from Luft, but it's gonna be fun.
It's not gonna be jazz either, because jazz isn't.
It's not gonna be jazz or country music. No, there's no country music. Sorry,
absolutely not.
Not at all.
Yeah, I think that is a good metaphor, though. Like if you look at what we've done with the Avant, we've taken experience and desire, and we've like put them together into the thing that we wanted. And now that the Avant is real, the next step is to create the vehicle around it that makes it the next level of real. And that's a business. And each of us, I mean, we're not like kids who've never been in a workforce before. I've worked for startups. Ryan's worked for startups.
Yeah.
I've had small businesses of my own. You've done ventures that are like, we don't know nothing about the business space either.
Yeah.
We get math and numbers. And so we're operating in reality, but we're also like, it's an opportunity to do something that we didn't even necessarily think could possibly be a reality, and it's becoming one. And so like, why not do it in the most enjoyable way?
Yeah. Well, because we've always been at a certain point in those companies where we've been maybe down the org chart just enough to imagine what it would be like if we were in those controlling seats.
Yep.
And the things that we would do if we were in the CEO seat or whatever, but never gotten there.
Years of my life have been that exact situation.
I'm in my current company that I'm working for too. Like, I'm like, it's just so close, but not there yet. And here we get the opportunity to kind of like,
we're driving the car.
There's no board of directors. If we want to make a decision, if we want to do something silly, hey, we're going to do something silly. This is fun. You know,
I'm still going to send it.
Yeah. So no, this is why, like, this is just why I feel like a little kid in a candy store, you know, on Christmas Eve when I know there's so many presents downstairs and my parents got me.
Yeah. I think too, like, again, this is at the expense of maybe sounding like I'm tooting our horn a little too much.
We a little bit we can, folks.
We're proud at the moment. So if we had created a knife that wasn't that good or that cool, I wouldn't feel like we had the liberty to like be a little bit zany with it.
That's fair.
Because I believe in the Avant, it's really easy for us to have the conversations where like, now how do we dial up the fun? Because the Avant isn't a silly knife. No. It's not a gag in any way.
It's very friggin' practical.
Yep.
Because two people designed this knife, and we have seen so many knives, and we own so many knives, and we like you were saying, we know exactly what we like. We weren't looking to build a very specific, wild knife that might cater to a certain crowd or, you know, present a certain image. We feel like this is a very slick, neutral knife that won't go unnoticed. I mean, and I'm not saying that in like a, you know, look at us sort of way, but like just the feedback we've gotten in the last 48 hours on it has been validation to what we've been spending the last year working on.
Yep.
And so, you know, we try and be humble. We're not really tooting our horn, but we are very proud of what we've accomplished, because a year ago we were just looking at scraps of paper and like we're holding a real tangible knife that we designed. And so we can be a little proud.
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny. I think one of the things I ask people on my podcast a lot is if they're a maker or a designer, if I'm talking about a certain model, it's like, what was your use case that you designed this knife for? Because some people are designing bushcrafty knives. Some people are designing office companion, like gentleman carry knives. Some people are designing well-rounded EDC knives. Some people it's tactical knives. And I think like this is a representation of what you and I feel we actually do with our knives. It's like the type of EDC knife that's just rugged enough that like I could carry it hiking, and I will, and I'm sure it will be fantastic at it.
This will be fun to carve stuff with.
Yeah, and it's like fantastic at opening packages, which is what everyone does the most.
Oh yeah.
And it's light and it's comfortable. And it makes me think too, like one of the things that I've said sometimes about knives that I think people defend too much when they're not actually that good, is they'll pick a feature about it and they'll be like, well, but it's really good at this. And it's like, yes, but it's 2021 and you can have a knife that has a good blade that is functional, thin and slicey, and cuts really well. And you can also have nice fit and finish. You can also have a good carry profile. It can also be lightweight, and and it can also be really fun to fidget with.
Oh, and it has to have that. Yeah.
And so many people or so many knives are good at one or two of those things, and they neglect the others, and people apologize for them because they shine in that. But I think this is by us partnering with Reat and designing it the way we did, with the little features that we sprinkled in that we've grown to appreciate.
Yeah.
We were able to actually strike a balance where I feel like, to me, it's a knife that feels like in 2021, it's doing everything that I hope a knife can do in 2021. It fidgets really well. It's freaking fun to open with any finger when you're flicking it. You can pinky flick it like crazy. It makes nice sounds. It carries well. It is light. The blade is slicey and functional. It feels good in the hand. The ergos are nice. Like, to me, it feels like I can hang my hat on it. And that's really, really nice that we didn't get these and have it be like I'm having to apologize for some component of it.
Right.
You know?
Well, no, you're right though. Like again, going back to it, we designed the knives for ourselves. We had all the boxes that needed to be checked. And we built a knife that literally checks those boxes. The fidget factor, it exceeded my expectations. Exceeds my expectation. I actually have, and I'm not trying to toot the horn of us in this knife, but I have many knives, and I go to a few knives for fidgeting fun. Yeah. And there isn't a knife in my drawer right now that, I mean, I can open this like 6 different ways.
Plus, yeah. Plus, you can flick it with any of your 4 fingers.
Thumb.
Plus, you can thumb flick it. You can use the flipper. You can use the flipper in a reverse way. You can probably do the Spyderco thing where you grab it like this. Yep, you can do that. I mean, it's like, what's your imagination?
And the detent is really, yeah, there you go. I forced it, but like, it's, yeah, right.
Yeah, it does not pop out on its own.
Riot did a great job with that detent. I will praise them for that.
And it's not always easy to dial a flipper with a hole, because flippers, you tend to need a stiffer detent than you do with a hole. And the fact that this middle finger flicks as well as it does, and that the flipper flips as well as it does, and that both feel like they're tuned right for what it is, that doesn't happen on that many knives. That's where a lot of knives go wrong if they've got both of those things, is one feels mushy and the other one feels too crisp.
And this is literally, I'm just, so that was something like just perma smile on my face, because I mean, obviously I don't know how many times have I opened it as we've been talking, probably 100 or more. Like, sorry, everyone listening to me on every Zoom call going forward at work, you're going to just constantly hear over and over again. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I'm really happy. I'm happy with how everything turned out. This could have the list of things we could have had to fix on this, or like serious tweaks, could have been. I didn't know what to expect. Did you know what to expect?
It is a miracle that on our first go around, we didn't have that happen.
Seriously, I did not. When I was doing my unboxing, like, the nerves that I had when I was like first doing the flip, and I'm like, oh, please don't let this be like sluggish or limp dick out. You know what I'm talking about? Like,
I had a nightmare the day before you got yours, that I got the prototypes and that they were terrible. And it was, and for some reason they had orange scales, and that was not what we asked for. And it was like vivid nightmare dream that the prototypes were bad. And I had in the dream, I had to cut something, and the blade had so much play that I was like worried I was going to cut. It was like bad. And then you got yours and you opened it. And also, side note, the number of people that messaged me saying how like adorable you were in your unboxing and how genuinely excited you were.
I really was genuinely.
It was contagious. But then, like, yeah, your unboxing, I was like, yes, it's good. And of course, mine weren't here yet. And I made you send me an action video, pictures, and it was like,
I felt bad. You were like tied up with something at the moment, and we were trying to get a call together. And I was just like, because I got home and I waited about an hour and a half.
I don't know how you did that. I would have waited 3 minutes and busted it
got
open.
preoccupied. I was like, I had to feed my dogs. I'm like, just waiting on Jake. And finally I'm like, no, I'm just going to do it. And I almost like, I cut the package open and then I'm like, I've never done an unboxing ever in my entire life.
There's ever been a time though.
And Haley was like, you're going to regret it if you don't. So I'm like, okay, I don't know how this is going to go, but like, there's very few videos where like genuine joy and like excitement is captured. And like, so I rewatched it and I was like, that's really funny. Like, yeah, those are uncontrolled emotions.
Yeah, and it's good.
And I watched yours last night too. You captured you captured your emotions there too, because like I know you had seen mine, but it's one thing to see and then there's another thing to experience. Like,
yeah,
it was fun. I can't wait for the other one. The other one's going to be just as fun too.
Yeah, the only thing that will make it at all less exciting than this one is that this one was the first time holding a real Avant.
Yes,
but I'm so excited for that colorway. I'm a sucker for green micarta. I'm a sucker for green and black together.
Yeah,
I mean, it's just like it's gonna be good.
Yeah, and right now, the only green that is in my head that I can really think of is our plastic version, and I know we have like a picture.
It'll be like this. This is React green micarta.
Okay, that's React green micarta. I'm trying to envision it, but I don't think that it's going to really hit until we get in person.
Yeah.
I mean, I honestly think we should be expecting a tracking number like by Monday or Tuesday. Yeah. I'm hoping that everything's back. Everything's
and they did the laser work on it.
So yeah, they did the laser work.
Assemble them and get them in the mail. Yeah.
And hopefully things don't get stuck in Alaska for 5 days.
4 for you, 5 for me.
I don't even understand how yours stayed in Alaska one more day, and mine just went from Alaska to San Antonio and was delivered like that same day.
And then mine went to Memphis before coming here.
Memphis. I don't get it. I felt so bad because you're just like, God damn it. Because we had talked, and the goal was to do an unboxing together.
Right.
Because it was supposed to be here by today. But then we also said if one showed up ahead of time, all bets are off. I didn't think it was going to be Mike. I figured, well,
the one going to LA should be pretty quick.
Yeah, should be a lot quicker than to Texas. Nope.
Yeah.
100% wrong. Thanks, FedEx.
It is what it is. Yeah. The important thing is that all the prototypes are here, and 3 out of 3 prototypes are legit and feel really good. And if they were the knives that we were shipping to customers, I'd feel good about it. Like
very good about it. So good about it. I can't wait for people to get these in their hands. I really, not in like a pompous sort of way, but like I brought this to my office, and people who have never used knives, people who have Benchmades and stuff, everyone wanted to feel it. People who have never even like opened knives, like did that the first time, and they're just like, wow, they're this. Lots of compliments.
It elicits a response.
Yeah. It elicits a response. Yeah. So,
yeah, it'll be wild for me to send the review samples out, right?
Yeah.
Because I've got the one here of this variant, and then of the black and green one, I'll have one to send out as well. And I've been the one who's been doing the reviewing,
right,
of other people's knives.
Yeah.
And it's led to some cool conversations where I've been able to talk to some makers and stuff. But it's going to be wild to watch some of my friends and some reviewers review our knife.
Also, kind of like nerve-wracking a little bit, because we have this. To us, this is our favorite knife in the world right now.
Of course, it is. Yeah,
and we've gotten a lot of people who have said very good things about it, just taking our word for it. But still, a knife reviewer is only as good as they are honest and they are truthful and transparent.
Right.
So we're going to be listening and taking into account all feedback. Doesn't mean we're going to go change things, but we also don't want people to just be doing us favors and just like hyping us up because like they're friends. We want honest feedback. We want
Correct.
exactly. So
yeah, if I was sending to a hype guy, I'd expect hype. If I'm sending to a
right,
reviewer, I expect a review. And that's
exactly.
the way I review things is
Right.
you send it to me, you're expecting me to review it and to be objective, as objective as I can at least about the thing. And so that's, it's going to be interesting to watch.
Exciting, nerve-wracking. I'm ready for it all because like no matter what, the Avant is still coming.
Yeah, true.
Yeah. So there's no stopping it now.
Come what may, it's in motion. Oh man. So I feel we're almost at 2 hours. Is there anything else that we need to make sure? Like I said, we're going to do a live soon, probably from the Luft Instagram. That's where most of the people who that's where we've told most people to go for information. So that's where we're going to disseminate information for now. I don't think there's anything else.
We should probably think about doing that next week.
Yeah, I'm up for it.
Yeah, I mean, so am I. I think that we'll just after this we'll
probably do that end of next week because this will go live.
Yep,
like Wednesday.
And the next week we also have some more details or a tracking number or best case scenario the other prototype. I highly doubt it.
There's no way that's getting here by that time. But maybe.
But that way by then new questions will arise. I mean, the response right now. All right. So like when we formed the Instagram account and put those 2 silhouette pictures up there, thank you to all of our friends because we instantly had like 150 to 200 followers. And we were like, this is just 2 black and white photos of a knife shape.
Just from sharing in our stories on our personal pages.
And like, so our friends are awesome. We love them. We've been posting like the renderings that kind of like, create a little more hype. Let's just put it this way. I don't know if we're totally prepared for all of this, but like 2 days ago, we had 400 people following us on Instagram.
Not even quite 400. We were in the 300.
Not even quite 400. And I'll just because it's changing rapidly right now. But right now on Luft, we're at 702. And, that's thank you, everybody.
It's meaningful. Yeah.
Seriously, it is meaningful because we are brand new. We literally just are showing people the prototype and it's creating excitement and it's humbling. It's overwhelming. It's overwhelming in a good way. Let's put it that way. It's just like we're right there with you still. We just happen to be the ones that have the knife. But we're just excited about it as you.
Yeah, yesterday, the sheer number of overwhelmingly positive comments that I got. I think I got maybe a negative comment across the hundreds of comments between platforms.
What was it? Do you remember?
I don't even know. So I got one where a guy who comments all the time and is nice on my channel mentioned some things that he thought would make the knife better. And that wasn't even mean. That was just the only one that wasn't like, congrats, amazing, love it. Everything else was just so nice. I don't know that there were any that were even actually mean. It was just mostly or all congratulatory and like just talking about why people liked it and what they liked about it and what they saw in it. And it was like, I expected a response, right? But I also expected some negativity because just about anything I ever put out there, video or content wise, there's going to be some negativity. And I don't even mind that. I expect it, right?
No, we still are expecting it. This is not going to tick everyone's boxes, but
I just want to say right off the bat, the amount of positivity has meant a tremendous amount. Yeah.
It's I almost don't know what to do. It's kind of like when somebody pays you a compliment directly and you're just like, nah, stop. Like, I don't want to take it.
But keep going.
But keep going. But at the same time, like, don't make me, or kind of like when it's your turn to open up a gift on Christmas and everyone's watching you and you're like, no, don't.
Oh, dude, my least favorite thing in the world is like being sung happy birthday. It's not fun.
Me too, man. It's like, stop. Thank you. Stop.
Yeah.
So yeah, we have to. I was like, we're gonna have to keep reminding ourselves that like we're the ones driving this car, but we're just as excited as everybody else.
Yep.
Yeah, and like literally, everyone's support is what's kept us like not kept us going, but it's not like we've been ever wanting to stop. It's just
it's a boost.
Our fire, yeah, it's you're boosting us, and it's making us feel like we got some solid love out there, man.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it makes it more exciting when it's not just us who are excited about it.
Yeah.
Because if it was just us who were excited about it, we would be like those people who wanted to just get prototypes to have their own, and then we would have called it quits. But the fact that there are people who want and are saying that they want what we're making means a lot.
Means so much.
Yeah, it's validating.
Very, very validating. Very, like I keep saying, overwhelming, but overwhelming in like a very positive way.
Yeah, humbling.
Very humbling. So,
well, sweet. I think we're right at 2 hours. We should probably just tie a bow on it. We'll call it good. This will not be the last podcast we do together. We waited to do this one until the prototypes were here, because now it feels more real than it ever has before. But we will absolutely podcast here on my platform together again soon. So in the meantime, I always want to end with where people can find things. So I'm going to start by saying the Luft places people can look, and then you tell people where they can find you if they want to find Ryan. So for Luft Concepts, like Ryan already mentioned, the site is not done yet. You can bookmark it if you want. It will be done soon and live. That's just luftconcepts.com, correct?
Yep.
So luftconcepts.com will be a thing soon. Right now, where we're posting the most and disseminating information, that's a weird word, where we're putting information out there for people who are asking for it the most. I love disseminating. That's going to be on the Instagram, which is just at Luft Concepts, LuftConcepts, Luft Concepts.
There you go.
So if you search that on Instagram, we will come up. We're posting reels and pictures and IGTV videos of our unboxings and stuff. I'll probably, most of the videos I do surrounding the Avant on my YouTube channel, I'll also put there on the IGTV if I can make that work logistically. So yeah, we're posting there a lot. We'll be making updates. We'll be going live there soon, like we said. So be expecting a lot of information to come through there. You'll be seeing a lot of posts, especially now that we have tangible knives to show. So yeah, that's really where Luft Concepts is for now. I think we did technically create a Facebook that's also at Luft Concepts.
It's there. We're
not doing anything with it yet.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to be a moderator, just hit us up. Maybe we'll. I don't know.
That's dangerous. We're gonna get a lot of people who.
I don't want to
moderator. We may do some specific recruiting for that. Yeah. We'll see. But
specific, exactly.
Instagram is the best place for now. Yes. Soon it will be the site.
Mm-hmm.
So Ryan, where can people find you if they're looking for you?
On Instagram, my personal account is at Silascopathic. Try and spell that. You can't. It's SILASCOPATHIC. That's my personal account. I post a lot of knife pictures and stuff there, non-donut related stuff, even though donuts are in it. Rimmer Designs is my maker account, and that's at RIMMER DESIGNS. Yeah. And that's find me there. I got it. I'm like reading it on the screen. I'm like, this doesn't sound right. So that's where you can find me. If you want to talk with me, 98% of the time I voice message people. So you will actually be talking with me. You don't have to talk back, but I hate typing. So you'll get me.
Perfect. And you tend to be more reachable on your maker account, right? On
very much, way more reachable.
Yeah, that's where we usually correspond when we're DMing each other.
But yeah, if you really want to get to know me, my other account's not private. So
perfect.
You can see my dogs.
And you have cool dogs. You have Great Danes, right?
I have 2 Great Danes, which I will not bring in here at the moment because they will just be here. So yeah.
I love it.
Yeah, man.
Well, Ryan, I mean, I feel weird giving you some kind of weird send off because I know you so well. But thank you for coming on.
Big, yeah, absolutely. Well, one of these days we should actually meet in person.
It'll happen. Yeah.
It'll happen. Yeah. By the way, folks, we've never met in person.
We've done a lot of video though.
Video.
So it would be hard for him to have catfished me for this long.
But never fist bumped in real life. Yeah.
It'll happen. But yeah, seriously, thank you for coming on. And
my pleasure. It was fun.
I think it's safe to say that we're both very excited.
Yeah, it's an understatement.
There's a lot to come. So thank you all for listening. We appreciate it.
Thank
you. Yeah, stay tuned because we're pumped. So hopefully you are too.
Yeah.
And, if you listen to all of this, you're a champ. And yeah, more updates to come soon. Thank you for listening. This has been episode number 27 with Ryan of Rimmer Designs, aka half of Luft Concepts, which is us.
There we go.